Welcome to Veterans Archives, where we preserve the stories of our nation's heroes in their own words and their own voices. Today is Thursday, October 10th, 2024, and I'm talking with Ray Brown, who served in the United States Army. So good morning, Ray.
Good morning.
It's great to see you.
Good to see you.
Well, we're going to start out very simple this morning. I'm just going to ask you, when and where were you born?
I was born in Royal Oak, Michigan in 1934.
Okay, and what was it like growing up in Royal Oak in 1934?
Well, of course, that was during the Depression.
Mm-hmm.
So the part that I remember was coupons. You had to have coupons. You had to have coupons to get food. You had to have coupons to get gas. You had to have coupons to buy shoes. That was, well, it was normal to me at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but later I always described it as we were less fortunate people because my dad had passed away.
Okay.
So my mother was trying to raise a family of 5 children without a husband, which was, of course, very stressful. Even now it would be.
Yes.
But she persevered, and she ended up with 5 children, and I don't know how many grandchildren now,
Mm-hmm.
but great grandchildren. I don't know if we can count that far.
Yeah, lots of numbers there, I imagine.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So how old were you when your father passed away?
Oh, he passed away before I was born.
Oh, okay. So your mom was pregnant then when your
Yes.
father passed away. Okay.
He died August 1st, 1934. I was born December 9th, 1934. It's about, I think, 4.5 or 4 and some days difference between the two.
Oh my gosh.
The strange thing about it is that my dad, as I said, died August 1st,
Mm-hmm.
and my mother passed away July 31st.
Oh.
That's
Okay.
Almost,
that's
almost
pretty close together.
It's almost eerie.
Yeah, it is. It is. If you don't mind me asking, what happened to your dad?
Peritonitis, which was a disease of the kidneys.
Uh-huh.
Now it is curable with penicillin,
Right.
but at that time it was not.
Okay. All right. And what did your dad do for a living prior to his passing?
He worked for Detroit Edison,
Mm-hmm.
and he got that job through my uncle, and he worked there for some time. I have no idea how long, and he became ill. And just before his death, he worked at as a janitor at the Baldwin Theater in downtown Royal Oak.
Okay.
Which later became a movie house.
Mm-hmm.
Now it has reverted back to live entertainment and plays and so on and so forth.
So it all comes back around, right?
Yes, it does. Yes,
It does. So tell me a little bit about your mom. So there were 5 kids. Were you the youngest then, obviously?
I was.
Okay. And what did she do to keep that family together?
Anything she could.
Uh-huh.
Her last years before she retired, she worked at a bakery in Royal Oak. It was Herman's Bakery, who was in Royal Oak for years and years and years. And she knew the owner. She was able to get a job there.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, she ran an elevator in the tallest building in Royal Oak, all 6 stories of it, And I don't remember how many years she did that.
Uh-huh.
I have no idea.
So what kind of businesses were in this building?
A lot of doctors, lawyers. There was a hospital. The 4th floor was a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually the precursor to William Beaumont Hospital. So,
Okay.
dentists, things of that nature. There was even a barber.
So it was mostly like a medical building then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And so you shared a story with me before we started recording, and I really like to capture that story. We were talking about pets, and you said you never had any cats, but you did have dogs.
Yes.
So could you kind of tell me that story again? That was really interesting.
Sure. Hold on just a minute.
Okay.
As I said, my mother ran the elevator in this tall building. It's all 6 stories of it. And we lived on a very busy street in Royal Oak.
Mm-hmm.
So if we had a dog and lost it because it was killed in the street or it ran away, the 4th floor of the hospital was a hospital, which has patients, and patients stay over sometimes. And they have to be fed.
Mm-hmm.
The back of the hospital, the back of the building, of course, had a lot of garbage and trash and so on and so forth, which attracted dogs and cats. So if we lost a dog, my mother would go to the back of the hospital after work, pick up a dog, bring it home. We would feed it, give it a bath, and then a couple of days later we would take it to the vet and get it checked out to make sure it was healthy and get it some shots, whatever it needed. So then it was our dog.
So you had an endless supply of pets.
Yes, she did. Some of them we held for quite a while.
Yeah.
We did. You know, one of them I remember is we got it around Christmas time, and we gave it a Christmas name. His name was Jingle Bells. So, which now it sounds kind of corny, but
That's what kids do, right?
yeah, yeah. So
Jingle Bells the dog.
Jingle Bells the dog.
So you had, did you have all brothers and sisters? How did that?
There was 5 of us. There was 3 boys and 2 girls.
Okay, all right. And were you fairly close in age, or were you like far apart in age? How did that?
Well, it was kind of staggered because my mother actually had 7 children,
Okay.
but she lost 2 in infancy.
Uh-huh.
So there was quite a gap sometimes between the siblings, my
Right.
siblings. But I'd have to look up the records to find out when my elder sister was born.
Uh-huh.
And actually, the youngest boy, the middle boy, was the first one to pass away.
Oh, okay.
You know. And my eldest brother was in service
Mm-hmm.
in Korea.
Okay.
He was in the Korean War.
And so you all pretty much had to work hard too as kids, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
We didn't own a car until the kids
Mm-hmm.
started working. Then they could contribute to purchasing a car.
Right.
And we didn't have a telephone in the house till my elder sister worked for Michigan Bell.
Okay.
Then there's some kind of a deal. She could get a deal or a price cut or something. So,
Mm-hmm.
and she had that phone number for something like 55 years. That's amazing.
That's
really
something.
amazing. Yeah.
That's something. I find myself sometimes remembering like my grandmother's phone number because I used to dial it all the time.
Yeah, sure.
And she had
Well,
it for years.
When we had first phones, you didn't dial.
Mm-hmm.
You picked it up and somebody said, "Can I help you? Could you get me da 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 da?" You know?
Right.
And it was tradition in those days. When you wanted to call somebody, you would pick up the phone and you would say Merry Christmas or Happy New Year or whatever applied to the operator.
Oh, okay.
And she, "Oh, thank you." You know. So,
Now, was this in the day of party lines too? Like
oh yeah.
you shared a line
Oh,
with
yes,
neighbors?
We had a
and,
party line. We had a party line. So.
and if it rang a certain way, you knew it was your
it
phone,
wasn't
or
quite that. I don't think so.
Okay.
Not that I remember anyway.
you just picked it up, and if it was
Picked
for
it
you, it
up.
was for you.
Yeah. If somebody was talking, you know,
Well, let me ask you this: when you think about your mom today, what's one of your favorite memories of her?
she was a hard-working woman.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you. She worked very hard to keep us together,
Yeah.
and this is not easy.
No, I know. I know. She sounds like an amazing person.
As she was.
Mm-hmm.
She told the story, but after I was born, or actually before I was born, the county gave her a nurse to help her out with the kids, okay?
Mhm.
Well, because there was 5 of us, the nurse decided to heck with this, and she just walked off the job. Now, this was in the wintertime because I was born in December.
Yeah.
Okay. So in order to keep us warm, my mother went downstairs one step at a time on her butt to stoke the furnace so that we would be warm. That's a tough woman.
That's love.
It is.
That is love for her children right there. Yeah. Yeah, probably kind of shaped who you are today, didn't it?
Hope so.
Yeah. Yep. It's always nice to be able to take those good things that people did for us
Yes.
and build
Yeah.
on them.
Yeah.
And I can tell from your voice and from your face right now that you really loved your mom. Yeah. Yep. And I know that's difficult for you. So,
Excuse me.
oh, certainly. Certainly. Take your time.
I didn't really mean to do that.
Oh, that's, you know what? That happens. I find myself crying sometimes when I'm listening to people tell me these stories. So it's perfectly okay. Well, let me ask you this too. When you think about the time you spent with your brothers and sisters, and I know that everyone had to work hard, do you have some like favorite memories about your childhood with your brothers and sisters?
Well, yeah. My mother, with 5 kids, didn't have a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And we lived down 11 Mile Road, so at Christmas time, we walked about 2 miles.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of the kids, but those who wanted to go, to get a Christmas tree, because my mother knew somebody who was selling Christmas trees up there, and she could get a little bit off of the price.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we would tote it all back. We would put it up. Now, we didn't have a good base for the tree, okay, like they now have Christmas tree stands that'll hold anything.
Yeah.
We had a old crock, and we would put the tree in there. Then we would stuff it full of paper, just regular newspaper,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And we would wet the newspaper, okay? Then we would tie string from the tree sash in the window to hold the tree up, okay? The goofy part about it is that when we decorated the tree, we were trying to hide the string, of course, so we would hang tinsel on the tree, which is dumb if you think about it, you know. So, but that's just the way we did things back in those days.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Made the best of what you had, right?
Absolutely.
Do you think that looking back on that, even as difficult as it was, those were some of the best times? Do you think about it that way, or are you kind of glad that's past?
Well, see, I didn't know any different,
Yeah.
so I had nothing to compare it to. And I didn't really realize that we were poor until several years later.
Right.
When I got out into the world and said, oh, well, things are different now than they were then. So,
Mm-hmm. Do you think that gave you a greater appreciation for the
oh yes,
the way things are now?
oh yes, oh yes,
Yeah.
oh yes.
I have to imagine that stays in the back of your head for a long time.
It was a hard period of time
Mm-hmm.
for not only us but for the country.
Right.
You know, with the World War II almost on us. You know.
Yeah, and it was starting to heat up, right?
Yes.
At this time.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, were you able to go to school then?
Oh yes.
Okay.
But I had to. I went to Catholic school, and I had to work in order to pay for books and the tuition. Okay. So when I was old enough, I peddled papers in Royal Oak area. By that time, my mother had sold the house on the busy street and worked and bought a home in a more residential area. Okay.
Okay.
And that's where I delivered the newspapers.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the money that I earned went to her to help support everybody else, you know.
Right.
And I was allowed a little bit to do whatever I wanted to do.
Uh-huh.
So,
So what kinds of things would you do with that little bit of money that you had? What was fun for you?
well, I like to listen to the ball games, baseball games.
Mm-hmm.
So I went up to a sporting goods store in our local Lawson's lumber company, I think it was, but they also sold sports equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a baseball scoring pad. Okay, it was a flip,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then I would sit and listen to the baseball game and record what they were doing, you know. And I like to get ice cream sundaes. So I would collect money from one man up in the second story
Mm-hmm.
of a building, office building. I would go downstairs, and there happened to be a kind of a restaurant down below, so I would order chocolate marshmallow sundaes, and I'd have one of those, you know.
Yeah. Is that still your favorite?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I haven't had one in many, many years.
Yeah. Ice cream kind of tastes best when you had to work hard for it, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
So what was school like for you? How did you do in school?
oh, I was a straight C
Uh-huh.
student. C student. I didn't like science. Science and I don't get along at all,
Okay.
you know. Of course, we had religion classes, but I did all right in the English and math and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, when I started working, at the end, I was in the accounting department of various companies, you know.
Mm-hmm.
In one case, I was manager of their auditing department. So, but school was school.
Right.
You know, so
Didn't really do well at science, but it sounds like math worked for you.
yes,
Okay.
I still do. I
Yeah.
like math today.
Yeah. And so were you at the Catholic school throughout for all of school, right? Like throughout?
Yes, no, all 12 years.
Okay. Did they have sports? Did you play sports there at all?
They had sports. I did not participate.
Okay.
As I remember, they had basketball and football,
Mm-hmm.
and I think there was a baseball team, but I did not participate.
Okay.
My sports ability is zero. I went to Waukegan, Illinois, after I got out of service
Mm-hmm.
to visit a friend, and he talked me into going golf. Okay, so we went to golf, and I used his clubs since I didn't have any, and it took me 39 strokes to get the second hole.
Oh my gosh.
And I decided then that sports is not my forte. So,
You'll never be a pro golfer, right?
no.
I could understand. So you go through school and you graduated high school.
Yes.
What did you do? What did you do next?
Well, I worked for a company that manufactured aluminum cookware.
Mm-hmm.
They were based in California. This was just a branch of it, and it was they did demonstrations at home. So the salespeople would go into a home, and they would cook a meal, and you, as the resident, would invite several people, I don't know, 8, 9, 10, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And this salesperson would cook a meal for you and these people. Of course, saying that Well, we don't use as much. We use a lot less water and stuff like this to sell the aluminum cookware.
Right.
I was the clerk in there, and I worked there for, I don't know, 3 years or something like that.
Okay.
And then I resigned.
Mm-hmm.
I went to visit a friend who lived only a couple blocks from me. And he says, well, why don't you go working with me? I said, well, where do you work? He says, well, I work at a bank. I says, well, I don't know how to get into a bank. He said, well, they're running a big ad in the paper. Oh, well, so I went down and applied and was hired as a teller.
Oh.
And I worked there for, I think it was 3 years, then went into service,
Mm-hmm.
got out of service, went back to the bank, and I finally left the bank and went into other organizations, always in the accounting department.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One car manufacturing, windshield manufacturing. I was able to work my way up to the manager of the auditing department.
Mm-hmm.
So, then they went belly up. And I did various things after that until I finally retired in 2000.
So well, let's back up a little bit though. When did you go into the service?
January 1958.
Okay. And what prompted that?
I was drafted.
Oh, okay.
They had to come after me.
All right. So you got drafted into the Army.
Yes.
And how long did you serve?
Not quite 2 years. I got out in December of '59.
Okay. And so so this was kind of a surprise that you were going to the military. What was it like for you to leave that civilian job and then go into basic training? Was that a big shock for you or a big change for you?
No.
Okay.
Actually, just before I was drafted, I had applied for a position in the Royal Oak Police Department.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave you a test. And as I remember, one was they give you a criminal scene, okay, and then you had to view this scene, and then they would question you about what was going on, okay.
Right.
And I apparently passed quite well, so they called and offered me a job, and I said, well, can't do that because I just received notice I'm going in the Army.
Uh-huh.
So,
And where'd you go to basic training?
Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Okay. All right. And how was that? What are your memories of?
It was probably
basic training?
typical first 8 weeks of training,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But I don't know. It was Army, so,
Right.
You know,
Right.
So, you know,
Yep. Did you make any friends while you were there? Any people that you stayed in touch
I
with?
did, but the friendships didn't last after I went into what they call second 8 weeks of training.
Okay.
I never associated with them and never saw them again.
Yeah.
And after that, then I went overseas.
Mm-hmm. What was your job? What was your job in the Army?
I was a clerk typist.
Okay.
When I was in high school, I took typing as a class,
Uh-huh.
and apparently I was pretty good at it. So when I went into service, I ended up in an artillery outfit as a clerk typist.
Okay.
So
And where did you go overseas to?
I was in Baumholder, Germany,
Okay.
a small town. I understand it wasn't very far from the French border, but I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Did you do much traveling while you were there then at all in Germany?
well, I got lucky. I tell people I got lucky, actually very lucky,
Mm-hmm.
because I was in service between wars, between Korea and Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was shooting at me. I wasn't shooting at anybody. That's luck number one.
Right.
Number two, I got to travel. I got to see things that I wouldn't be able to see on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I went to Brussels for the Belgian World's Fair. I went to Paris for Christmas with my brother because he was also stationed over there with his family and him. I went to Paris for Christmas. A friend that in service with me at that time took some leave. We went through Austria and Switzerland into Italy. And I went to Milan, Rome, saw the Colosseum, Vatican, Pompeii, Capri, Naples, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, you know, several things that I would never be able to see on my own.
Yeah.
So that's luck number 2, that I was able to do that.
Now, do you have, when you think about those places, do you have a favorite place that you visited there?
No, probably the Christmas with my brother and his family. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's always nice to be with family.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially if you're overseas, that's great. That's actually great luck.
Well, my sister-in-law was French.
Uh-huh.
So we stayed with her mother. Now, I stayed with a neighbor, which was 3 blocks away, I think, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would just walk over to her house in the morning and I'd go back at night and so on and so forth. But while we were there, my brother took me on a short touring. You know, we went to Sacré-Cœur and the Louvre and the Eiffel Tower.
Mm-hmm.
I actually walked up to the Eiffel Tower. I was scared to death. I don't like heights.
Yeah.
Scared to death, but I did it. You know, I'd never do it again.
That's a very tall structure.
It is.
Uh-huh.
And I was just on the first step where the legs go and then there's a platform.
Yeah.
Well, I was on that platform. I didn't go any higher than that.
Oh, you didn't go all the way up to the top.
Oh,
then.
no. Oh, no. Hell no. No.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I feel the same way about heights. So I'm with you.
Oh. But I love to fly.
Yeah.
Flying on an airplane does not bother me at all.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, isn't that strange?
yes, it is.
It is. Maybe it's just because you're inside.
I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, at least you feel safe. So you spent what, about a year and a half in
It
Germany?
was about 18, 19 months, something like that.
And then you came back to the States. Did you process out then?
Yes.
Okay. And
Well, I was in reserves.
okay.
It was, at that time, it was 2 years active duty, 2 years active reserves.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was 2 years inactive reserves. So
Okay.
I did all that and finally got my discharge. You know.
So you were you a drilling reservist then? So you had to go to drill weekends and things like that?
Yes, the first 2 years, yes.
All right. And did you continue doing your clerk typist work there?
Yes.
Okay. And what did that work entail? Like, what kinds of things did you do as a clerk typist?
Oh, they had a daily bulletin, and the sergeant who was in charge assigned guard duty to the officers, officer of the day, and it was my responsibility to type up the mimeograph form and get it run off and get it distributed. And they had Army regulations, and it was my responsibility to change the regulations. I would get notices from Army headquarters, such and such a regulation has to be changed, so you have to change the part of the regulation that you have, even if it's just changing nothing but a comma. Okay, and I had a bookcase full of these things.
Right.
And I'd have to sit there and change all these things.
These are like pen and ink changes then?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, I think people have forgotten that those regulations were like published on paper and they had to be updated, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
That'll keep you busy.
Yeah. And once in a while I had to pull guard duty. That was, I think, 3 times in 19 months. Is not that bad.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Part of that I didn't like, because once it was in the, I ended up at the ammo dump, which is off away from the main post, you know. That was kind of eerie at 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:30 in the morning, you know.
Mind play tricks on you out there, won't it?
Yes, yes. But we had a rifle, and we had a clip of ammunition, but we couldn't put it in the rifle that we had. We had to carry it.
Mm-hmm.
And then if necessary, we would then load the rifle, which seems kind of slow.
Yeah, probably not the best way to do it, is it?
No.
So you did your time in service. You came back. Did you go back to work at the bank then while you were still
Yes.
in the reserves?
Yes.
Okay. And you worked at the bank for a few years then?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And then at some point, did you met your wife in all of this, right?
Well, my wife worked for the bank, so I met her on a blind date.
Okay.
You know, well, we were married in '64, so I guess that would be '63 that I met her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we married in February of 1964.
Well, tell me about your blind date.
Well, at that time, it was very common if you were going out with someone
Mm-hmm.
to take them out for dinner and then go to a main show, you know. And they had some big movie houses in downtown Detroit, so that's what we did. You
Okay.
know, went down to dinner and then went to the movie. And the movie was Moulin Rouge, as I remember, which
Mm-hmm.
is the life story of a French artist. And one time when I was in Paris with my brother, we went to the Moulin Rouge.
Uh-huh.
They took us to the Moulin Rouge. And then we go see the movie. That's kind of
Yeah.
odd. It's kind of odd. You know.
Was the movie as good as the real thing?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Oh, that's
yes.
great.
All the dancing and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And the ladies lifting their skirts up and dancing and doing
Right. They had the big ruffles and all that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was it the can? Isn't that what they?
Yes. Yes.
What they did?
So, that was kind of cool.
Yeah. So how long did you and your wife date then before you decided to get married?
Oh, golly gee. I would say maybe 9 months. I don't really remember.
Did you kind of know on that first date that this was the person
Yes.
for you?
Yes.
Okay.
There was no doubt in my mind at all.
Yeah.
I don't think she felt the same way, but
But you knew.
I know.
You just had to convince her, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So where did you get married?
St. Mary Magdalene in Melvindale, Michigan.
Uh-huh.
It was a cold day.
Was it?
Oh, the weather was terrible. Terrible.
They say it's good luck if the weather's bad when you get married.
Is that what they say? I
Yeah,
never
I've heard that. Somebody said that once.
It turned out all right for me, though.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, 60 years? Or
1964.
okay, 1964. And so you were married for quite a while.
54 years.
Yeah.
54.
Yeah. And so did you did you live in Royal Oak or Detroit after you got married? Or where were you?
Well, we had a flat in Ferndale.
Uh-huh.
And we were there for, I think less than 6 months. And then we bought a house in Royal Oak, just a story-and-a-half bungalow. And we were there for almost 10 years, and that's where that's where we lived when all our kids were born.
Okay.
Then we moved to a larger home in Berkeley, and we were there for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And where do we go from there? By that time, all of the kids were leaving, had left the house.
Right.
And we moved to a smaller home in Madison Heights. And then my wife had decided she wanted a condo. And I was against it at first. And then I guess I just got tired of cutting grass and so on and so forth. So we moved to a condo in Sterling Heights.
Uh-huh.
And we were there for a short period of time. We had problems there.
Okay.
It's not necessary to go into why.
Yeah, that's fine.
Then we had a chance to buy a condo in Howell.
Uh-huh.
So we did.
Okay.
And we lived there until she passed away. So that was 20-some years,
Mm-hmm.
23, 20 years, 24. I don't know.
So I want to back up a little bit. How many children did you have?
4.
4. Okay.
4 girls.
4 girls.
Yes.
Wow. And very close in age? Or
Well, we were married in '64. The youngest was born in 71.
Okay.
So that's 7 years and 4 kids. So,
Yeah. Spread out kind of nicely.
yeah, some of them were close, but
Yeah.
some of them weren't. So.
Yep. And so tell me about your children. Start with your oldest daughter and.
She's a nurse now.
Okay.
She, of course, is married, her second marriage.
Mm-hmm.
She has 2 children, a boy and a girl. She has 2 grandchildren. The second one is, she's a chef at a specialty store in Royal Oak.
Mm-hmm.
She has 2 girls and 5 grandchildren.
Wow.
The other 2 are married but don't have any grandchildren.
Okay.
And they respectfully have, the number 3 daughter has a boy and a girl, and the youngest has 2 girls and a boy.
Okay.
And her oldest is getting married coming June.
So lots of grandchildren then.
You know, well, 9 grandchildren and 7 great-grandchildren.
Wow.
So,
And are they all local then? Are they all here in Michigan?
all in Michigan.
Oh, that's
All in
nice.
Michigan. Although one granddaughter is going to school in Chicago.
Uh-huh.
She wants to get into some kind of child behavioral something. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my eldest daughter is a nurse, and I have 2 granddaughters who are nurses, which is kind of nice.
Yeah. Yeah, they can give you the straight scoop, right, when you have
Absolutely,
questions.
Absolutely.
My sister's a nurse, and I'm always calling her, asking her questions. So I understand that.
Yeah.
And so what was it like? You were pretty outnumbered in that house. Being the
Well,
only...
even the dog was a female.
Oh, my goodness. And you didn't play golf, so you weren't
No.
going to go play golf with your buddies.
No, no.
So, yeah, do you have some favorite memories of when your children were growing up, when you were raising your family?
Well, no, not really.
Yeah.
No,
Did you guys travel a lot, or did
No.
you? Oh, okay.
no.
Okay.
We couldn't afford to travel.
Yeah.
No, just working and raising the kids.
Yeah. Yeah. And so where were you working now that you have your family?
At the bank.
You're still at the bank.
At the
Okay.
bank, yeah.
All right.
Working my way up as assistant manager. I was in the auditing department with them,
Uh-huh.
and then they had a program.
Sorry about that. So they had a program.
They had a program. It's called Cadet, where they would take promising people
Uh-huh.
and they would put you in different departments for a short period of time in order for you to learn what's going on in that department.
Mm-hmm.
It could be mortgage or installment loans or whatever. After which then you were appointed as an assistant manager, assistant branch manager.
Okay.
So that's what I did. Okay.
And you were there for how long? Quite a while.
Oh, it was quite a while.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly.
Okay.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And now is that the job that you retired from?
No,
Okay.
no. I was not smart, and I lost that job.
Okay.
I don't remember where I went there. But it was there was a period, bad time in the United States. It was a recession and everybody was being laid off.
Yeah.
And I finally landed a job at a company that manufactured windshields.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in their audit department. But their audit department, they had retail outlets, glass outlets throughout the country, and they had warehouses throughout the country. And they had a consignment program. So if you were a distributor in, I don't know, say Des Moines, Iowa, you could get windshields from this shatterproof glass, is the name of it.
Mm-hmm.
Put it in your warehouse, but not pay for it until you sold it.
Oh.
Okay. Then you would report to Shatterproof that we sold it, and they would say, okay, you owe us X number of dollars. Okay. My job then would be to go around to the various warehouses, and we would take what they sold and subtract it from what we charged them with, and then see if it balanced, and if it didn't, then we would bill them for the difference. And we had, Shatterproof had 25 of these warehouses around the country and 25 retail outlets around the country, not always connected to each other.
Okay.
So that's what we did. We traveled around all over the place. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And the boss of the auditors was afflicted with cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and couldn't do that job anymore. So then the boss said, okay, you're it, Ray. So I would assign, you go here, you go here, you go here.
Right.
Yeah. So
And how long did you did that for a while too, right?
I was with Shatterproof around 11 years, I think, something like
Okay.
that. And then they went bankrupt.
Uh-huh.
So,
And then what did you do after that?
well, I was unemployed for a while, and then my wife was working at the bank, and one of her customers worked for a company, fundraising company.
Mm-hmm.
And she told him about me, and he told his, I think it was maybe his father-in-law, who seemed to be interested in my background. So we did an interview, and they hired me, and I was with them, I would guess 6 years or so, until I retired.
Okay. And you retired in 2000.
2000.
Yeah. So we're in 2024. So what did you do after retirement? What kinds of things did you do?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, my wife was still working, so actually I kept house.
Yeah.
Years way back, when I was laid off, I didn't think it was fair for my wife to go work
Mm-hmm.
and have to come home and do the wash and do the cooking and clean the house. So that's what I did
Yeah.
when I retired, you know. Until she retired. She was younger. She was 7 years younger than I was.
Mm-hmm.
So she worked for several years after I retired until she could retire.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And I was after that, but we had by that time we had a cottage up north. We bought a cottage up north, and we would go up there on the weekends. You know, I would say on Tuesday, I'd say, "Honey, do you want to go up to the cottage?" Yeah, okay. So Thursday, I'd start packing, so that Friday after she got off work, everything was ready. All she had to do was go change, jump in the car, and I always had something for her to eat.
Right.
Because she wouldn't have a chance to get dinner, and in the car, and then we're gone up to the cottage.
Now, where was your cottage at?
East Tawas.
Okay. All right.
And we had that for 30 years.
Uh-huh. Now,
I
did the
just-
kids come up and go to the cottage with you?
Initially, no, they didn't.
Uh-huh.
But then some of them, one of them or some of them, came up and said, "Hey, this is kind of nice up here, and we don't have to pay for anything." You know, so
It's kind of a good deal.
yeah. So then a couple of years ago, I sold it.
Mm-hmm.
Sold it to my daughter and her husband. So
So they really liked it then after they
Yes.
went up and visited.
yes.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Cottage can be a lot of work, though, can it?
Yes. And
Mhm.
as I aged, it became more difficult. You know.
Yeah.
Plus, we couldn't be up there every weekend because we had other things to do, and my wife was still working,
Mm-hmm.
and maintenance was becoming a problem. particularly financially, some of those things were expensive to repair,
Yeah.
you know. But we did the best we could.
Mm-hmm.
And we managed, I guess. We managed. And so I sold it to my daughter and her husband
That's
a
nice.
couple years ago.
And then were you living in Royal Oak then after
No.
retirement? You were living in Howell
Yes.
after retirement.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And then so your wife passed away a few years ago.
6 years.
6 years ago.
Yes.
Yep.
And she worked at the senior center right next door.
Uh-huh.
She wanted to hone her office skills, so she volunteered to work in the office at the senior center.
Okay.
And I went over there to play cards,
Mm-hmm.
play euchre, and then it was pinochle. Now it's cribbage on Monday, and it's double deck or triple deck euchre
Mm-hmm.
on Tuesday or Friday.
Now, you know what's funny? Being a Michigan guy myself, is that when I left Michigan in the service, people didn't know what euchre was.
No.
And it's hard. I didn't realize how hard it was to teach people. If you
Yeah,
don't
can
know
be.
euchre, it's hard to.
Well, because you're switching jacks, you know, they're jack of clubs is not always a jack of clubs.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
But cribbage, I used to play cribbage with my dad all the time.
Yes.
It's a great game.
Yes.
One of my favorites, anyway.
No, I learned how to play that. My sister worked at the cleaners in Royal Oak, and she had a girlfriend who used to come over to my mother's home
Mm-hmm.
after whatever she was doing, and she was trying to teach me how to play cribbage, and she would keep score on paper and pen, which seems to be an awful difficult chore.
Yeah.
So she gave me the basics, and then when I was working for the bank, the guy who was in charge of the traveling auditors who go from branch to branch.
Mm-hmm.
He got interested in cribbage, so we would play cribbage on our lunch hour, okay? Until one of the branch managers objected to that because he thought we were gambling, I guess,
Yeah.
and reported us to our big boss, who said, no, we don't do that, you know, so. But we love the game. It's a
Yeah.
good game. It's a good game for two people.
It is. It is.
Oh.
And you can get to know somebody playing that game.
Oh, yes. Well, we play 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6
Uh-huh.
next door. We kind of invented a cribbage game for 5. And after we were doing that for 6 months, we found out there was actually a game that was that was standard, I guess you'd call it,
Right.
which was not the game that we were playing.
Learned how to kind of do it the right way after that,
Yes.
huh?
Yes. So,
So, well, it's been great talking with you and getting to know you, and learning about your life. Before we go, I always ask people kind of the same question. You know, years from now, when someone's listening to this story, what would you like them to take away from our conversation and from your life? What would you like them to take away from that?
be an American. Love your family.
Mm-hmm.
Love your country.
Absolutely.
Love your maker. That's all.
Okay. Well, thank you again. We really appreciate it. To listen to this full story or to hear the stories of other veterans, go to www.veteransarchives.org and click on the Media tab.